Welcome everyone to Raw Sport. My name is Ahmed Al Houli, and we're back with another huge show. In our presence today, we have a very special guest. Mr. Alex Winwood joins us, a young rising star in the boxing world. Alex, welcome to the show, buddy. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm feeling good, and everything's been going really well lately.
Where are you calling from, Alex? Which part of the world?
I'm calling from Bangkok, Thailand.
Very, very nice and warm over there.
Yeah, that it is.
Definitely not Melbourne weather. It's freezing in Melbourne. Alex, before we get into all the boxing and all the nitty gritty, who is Alex Winwood? Where did your career start?
Alex Winwood is a Noongar man from Perth, West Australia, and I started my career in a little town called Mandurah, about 50k south of Perth, and I was just in the back of a tin shed.
Wow. 50k south of Perth at the back of a tin shed. Who was the tin shed for?
My coach, Brian Satori, had just retired from the workforce and left the PCYC. Wanted to start his own boxing gym, and over the time just kind of gathered a ring. Wasn't really a ring, it was just some ropes and some carpet on the floor when I first got there, and a couple of bags, and that's kind of where it all started. And before we knew it, it was 9 years in that backyard.
And was that a well-developed town, or just outback, or what's the context like, just for our listeners?
It is more developed now. It's a pretty large town at the moment. I think it has like 350,000 residents, so it's not too bad. But Perth's only got like 2 point something. So it's the largest outside of Perth.
Interesting. Anybody in your family with a boxing lineage?
On both my sides, actually, there's a lot of tent boxing and that happening back in the day, and my grandfathers and stuff. But it was something that I didn't know about when I first started boxing. It was only in maybe a year into it that I actually was fighting and competing, and then my grandfather and stuff started talking to me about it, and my dad.
So you said tent boxing?
Yeah, they used to follow the tents when they'd come around back in the day and get in there and pretty much fight anyone and everyone, really.
And bare knuckle, right?
No, I do think that they used to put a glove on, maybe one glove, maybe two. I don't know. Don't know the specifics of it, but I'm pretty sure they used to have the old
those
what
little
I
mitts.
call the little mitts that look like you're taking goodies out of the oven. That's what I think of them as.
Wow, quite the history. I think that I think some of those fights still occur in rural towns around the country. I believe.
There's I forget what the tent is. It's the last boxing tent in Australia, and it only runs around in Queensland, up and down the coast. So yeah, I'm yet to get there yet.
Wow, there you go. A boxing lineage which started in a tent, which is very, very interesting, very, very different. I've never spoken to anyone who's had that sort of lineage. If we look at your childhood, was boxing the preferred sport, or did you play other sports?
AFL was the one and only, really. Boxing came out of the blue, but yeah, AFL runs through my bloodline, and anyone and everyone who's Indigenous, especially in Perth, that's all we know. We don't know rugby. We don't know anything else. It's only AFL. So everyone wants to be a superstar, and I was pretty much fell in love with the sport, and it broke my heart when I had to walk away from it.
Anyone in your family played in the big time?
Yeah, my mum's brother Troy Ugle, he played for West Coast. Went pretty much when West Coast was first founded. So it was something that we all wanted to get to and put our name on there with him, but not one of us has done it yet.
Wow. So you got AFL and boxing in your bloodline, which is really, really interesting. And how did that transition happen? Like, how did you get attracted to boxing?
So my coach started running boxing lessons out of the high school that I was attending to. He pretty much got bored. As I said, he retired. He was looking for some people to train. And when you're doing it out of your backyard, it's kind of hard to get walk-ins. So
Yeah.
he went to the local high schools and said, does anyone want some training lessons? I'll run them for free. And then I did a few weeks. School holidays came around. I was skating on a skateboard and I seen him walking and he goes, "Hey, how are you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good." And we had a bit of a chit chat and then he just said, "Oh, do you want to come have a look at the boxing gym?" So I went and told my dad and then my dad took me around there the following Tuesday and that was all she wrote.
And then that launched your boxing career, I guess, and then you got into the amateurs, and take us through that.
Yeah, I pretty much from the day that I walked into that gym, that was my home until for the past 9 or 10 years, and had my first amateur fight maybe 6 months, I think, when I first started training there, and I managed to get 3 fights by the end of that year. I think I started in September. By December, I had 3 fights. I won them all. It was against the same bloke. That guy went to my high school, so I could not lose against him. And then, yeah, exactly right. Yeah. I was like kind of a part of the rough crew of kids and that, and he was not. And he had been training for like 5 years, and I was like, I don't care how long he's training for. I cannot lose to this guy because I'll get bullied if I go back to school.
Yeah.
But
playground rights. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And then, so the following year, my coach gave me the ultimatum and said, "All right, do you want to do footy or do you want to do boxing?" And I chose boxing. And then I think I won my first state title that year, a silver gloves, and got to represent WA over at the Queensland Nationals. The first time I ever went away for a state team, so that was quite good. And I lost in my first fight against the eventual gold medalist. And then maybe within a year after that, I went back as a senior and won my first national title.
Wow. You won your first national title and then you kept going. And then what happened after that?
Yeah, so when I won my first national title, I wasn't aware that it was a Olympic qualifying event for Rio. So yeah, my coach left me in the dark. He's like, he's only just turned 18. I don't want to put too much pressure on him. And I was fighting all the grown men, and they had pretty much competed overseas. They've done this, that, and the other. And some of them won multiple Australian titles. So he's just like, "Mate, just go out. Let's see if we can win." And I beat everyone. I beat the former Australian champion. I beat the Australian representative. There was no one that I didn't fight in that tournament that they said that I ducked or whatever. So I beat them all. And then afterwards they go, "Oh, how do you feel potentially representing Australia at the Olympics?" I just bullshitted my way through. I said, "Oh yeah, I feel great." I had 2 black eyes in this interview. I've never done an interview before. So it was quite funny. And then, I went away with Australia on the team to the Philippines. The first time traveling overseas, and got towed up a couple of times and started developing a bit more, and went to go represent Australia and try to qualify for the games. And I beat New Zealand in my first international fight, and then I got dusted up by a former Olympian that then went and represented his country again at that following games. And it was at that point that I realised, all right, well, I've only been in the sport, I think at that point, 3 years, and I'm fighting these guys that have had like 10 or 15 years experience and they've had 100+ fights. So I said, I'll give myself the long goal and I want to come back and represent Australia at Tokyo. So back to the drawing board, and all the years pretty much accumulated on top of that.
Wow. Interesting journey. 3 years in, fighting to represent our country in the Olympics is pretty powerful. I mean, they're very, very good signs. early on, and very encouraging. Okay, so we move on from your amateur career, and we move into your pro career. Boxing is a very interesting sport, very different sport to the code that you used to love. Or I'm not sure if you still love it, which is AFL. Um, it's very hard in this
Yep.
country to make it as a professional. So your record's currently 4-0. You're currently in your next fight attempting to break Jeff Fennick's record of being Australia's fastest heavyweight champion. Sorry, world title.
Yep.
Um, what's the hurry?
Um, I don't see the point of fighting people that I know I can beat. You know, that was the mentality that I went in with the pros, and I told my coach and my manager Tony Tolge that, hey, give me the fights that I want to compete in, and that, you know, people that are where we want to be at. Like, I don't want to fight people that we know that I'm going to go in and bash them up and stop them and things like that. I said, pretty much coming off fighting the world's best in the amateurs, and that's where I want to continue to go from. Else, I feel like I was going to recede and get worse. I went into a different gym. The Maloney's have been world-class sparring partners, and I've just been around great energy, and I just really didn't want to take a backward step and slowly get into it. I'm 27 now, and it is young, but in my opinion, I've been around for 10 years. I don't want to slowly get into it. I'm not 20. I'm not starting out as a pro early. I want to get into it and mix it with the best straight away. And that's pretty much the reason why we're at 4-0 and trying to fight for a world title in our fifth fight.
Fantastic. You got some very strong support for some high-profile AFL athletes. I'll just show on screen some West Coast Eagles superstars.
Yep.
What inspired that, and who was, how did that come about?
Well, Liam Ryan's I guess one. He's a big supporter, and he's actually came and done a walkout with me, I think, in my third fight, which was actually quite awesome for him to come along. And he's married to my cousin, so we've got a little bit of a connection there.
So there's family blood.
Yeah, exactly right. And he's brought the boys down because he knows how big this has been. He's been around. He's watched my journey slowly through the amateurs and now in the pros. And like I said, he came down to my fight night and he carried the belt into the ring for us and that. So he just wanted to get some support around me and bring the boys down. And it was a pleasure to meet them. And I just hope they had a great time.
Wow, there you go. I mean, that support is very, as I say, very comforting, especially from, in Australia, AFL is everything. It's the
Definitely.
biggest, and the exposure you get from that support is very, very beneficial for yourself, because boxing is not really that mainstream in Australia. So great work there, mate.
No, I appreciate it.
Is there anyone that you look up to who's been a mentor for you throughout your boxing career so far?
As a professional, Danny Green has been pretty much in my corner from the first fight. He actually has been. He's been in my corner for all my 4 fights. Yeah, it's been a relationship and a friendship that I had never seen coming. Him and Mundine were huge names when I was growing up in the Australian scene. Like, they transcended, the niche of boxing, and they were everything in Australian sports. So for him to actually come show support as a West Australian and us sharing the same coach, it was very, very good. And he's just given me the 1%ers that only someone who's been there and done it could actually give. another one of my mentors is my amateur coach, Brian Satori, and he's just mentored me through life, and not just been a good boxing trainer, but just a really good father figure to me, and pretty much showed me the ropes and kept me on the right track from since I was a young boy over the last 11, 12 years. So without people around you that actually want to see you do better and things like that, I wouldn't be in the position that I am today.
Absolutely. Danny Green is quite the mentor. I mean, you're in very, very, very safe hands there, mate. Alex, what does the future hold for you? I mean, you're only after the big fight, which is unbelievable for someone at your age and your record. It's definitely a fresh of it's refreshing to actually hear that, because in this country for so long we've had so many fighters cherry pick their way to good records and then go overseas and get pummeled. So it's very, very refreshing to hear that. Um, so where would you like to be in the next 5 years?
I guess still mixing it with the best and taking on the best fighters that we can. I don't see myself having too much of a long career past 30. So I want, yeah, that's my thought, is that I want to be already at the pinnacle by 30 and having the best fights that I can make and bring them to Australia, hopefully and potentially, and give light to the smaller weight classes, and whether it's like the biggest names in Asia or if there are some names over in America, that's essentially what I want to do, and get in and get out and keep all the brains in that intact, and yeah, just
Very nice.
walk away from the sport on my terms rather than the sport, having its way with me.
There you go. Very wise words. Alex, you've been very, very generous with your time, and I thank you very, very much for joining me on the show. Before we wrap things up, mate, where can people get in touch with you online or follow you online?
Yeah, it's Alex_Winwood, pretty much across all the platforms except Facebook. It's Alex Winwood Boxer. So anywhere on there, Instagram, Twitter, X, Facebook, you can grab me on all of them.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Alex Winwood, thank you very much for joining me on Raw Sport. Take care. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy.